Hey folks, Jeff here at Back to Country. Appreciate you stopping by the channel today. Well, if you've been following our channel, you know that we've got the electricity at least hooked up. The power company came in, got us all hooked up and done, but that doesn't really mean we're done with the electrical work. Still got a lot of wiring to do. So right now I'm working on what I consider to be my main conduit run. So we came out of the panel, across the building, and then down the building, and then now we're shooting across. And the end goal is over here. I've got a RV panel set up, and I got the scissor lift in the way right now to really see it, but this is my RV panel here. It's got all your standard RV hookups, 50 amp, 30 amp, and a 20 amp. And I'm setting this up as a 100 amp sub panel. So that's got to have conduit run from this far end of the building on the other side clear to the back to the main box, the main panel, where it'll plug into a 100 amp breaker. And to do that, we're running all the wire in conduit. So rather than putting tons of conduit in this building, what I'm trying to do is combine a lot of runs. And yes, I've derated my wire and everything to do that. In my 100% in spec according to code, I have no idea, because that gets confusing when you get into multiple wires in the same raceway and how much to derate and everything. We've already upgraded our wire sizes. In this conduit across, I'm setting up a enclosure. So I use these enclosure boxes all over the place, and that gives me a plastic box that I can drill knockout holes into and put different pipes that I want to run. So this particular box is going to go up here at the top, and it's got 3 different holes in it currently, knockouts. So the bottom hole is going to connect to this 1.5 inch conduit, which will run straight down, and that'll feed the RV panel, the 100 amp sub panel. And then up at the top, we've got to bring the conduit in. So then we've got a 2-inch conduit that runs across the rafter to the other side, where it joins up with another one of these boxes, and that particular one will feed into a 2.5 inch piece of conduit that runs all the way across the top girt, down through the 2 girts, and back into the main panel. So the reason I went with the different wire sizes at all different points is because different amounts of wire that are going to run through that conduit. So for example, the main conduit that's 2.5 inches is basically going to have every single wire that runs through this feed, which is going to connect to lights, it's going to connect to garage door openers, and it's going to connect to this RV panel. So a lot of different stuff. Of course, when you get into the lights, not only do you have the run to the light, but we've got a power run in that will come down into switches, and then out of the switches will feed back each run to the lights. So we'll get to that wiring and everything when we get there. For now, we're just building the conduit run and planning out pretty much everything we need to do on this run, so that we don't have to run multiple conduits. Because every time we run another conduit, we're probably penetrating through a girt or something, and I just hate drilling holes. That alarm was my scissor lift that I haven't used it, and the key's on, so it's just telling me that the power's on and I'm not moving. So I gotta get moving. But anyway, that's where we're at. Stick with us. Let's see how it goes. Okay, so our enclosure box, we had to mount some wood here to give us space because we've got a steel lip here and a steel lip here that we've got to obviously be able to work around. So we put a couple of boards in here as spacers and screwed them to the column. Now I've got the pipe just dry fitted. This one's got to go straight down. So really what I want to do now is heat this piece of pipe, and then we're going to bend it so that this sits straight how it's how we want it to sit.
Oh, he's
Getting close.
he's bending really fast over there.
Close, but not quite.
You got it?
I think so. Just gotta cool down and harden now. Okay. Glue.
Glue. Here it is.
Scalpel.
Here it is. This part is always challenging, just applying that glue. And if things don't go right, it's not a good ending.
Looks perfect.
Ah, good.
That look good there?
Yes. Look center.
good?
Very good.
Should work. Challenge is gonna be gluing it, of course.
Ready? Okay.
Make this work.
Yeah. Good luck. Yeah. Okay.
Yep. So we got this pole box enclosure mounted. We did a little pipe bend here. Came out real nice. Mounted it to this wood so it spaces around these lips. So the wires will come in here, go down to the 100 amp sub panel, and then this slot here is for later expansion where I'm going to come out for my garage door openers over on this side. So that's all done. We've glued this joint. Next thing will be to figure out where we're going to put in a box for some outlets up here for a light. And we'll have 3 of those to install across this rafter. Here's my first box mounted to the rafter. So these 2 fittings on the outside here, adapters, are for my 2-inch pipe. That's where all the wires are going to run through. And then splitting off here will be some light wires. So it'll come up this 90, continue on for an outlet up here that will control an LED high bay light. And then if you look down there at the bottom, you see that hole. That's another 3/4 inch adapter for conduit to come out the other side for a light to go on the other side. So this will control lights to what I call bay 1 and bay 2. And yeah, the main lines will run through this big conduit and then feed out to the lights. So that's how we're setting it up. We've got 3 of these boxes total to make the run. This is our first one. This last piece was a little bit of a challenge. So I've got a 6-inch box there. It's got a 3/4 fitting coming out of the top, so that's gonna connect to some conduit that'll run a few feet over to power a garage door opener. And then out of the bottom, it's got a 1-inch PVC fitting adapter that comes through the purlin. That's going to go down, and we're going to put another hole in the purlin below, and it'll continue down, and then there'll be a set of double gang boxes that'll contain 6 light switches for 6 bay lights, 3 in bay 1 and 3 in bay 2. And then we had to get creative. So I had a 90 that I put on there, and you can see that 90 kind of curls around and goes up to the back side of this column here. And then you got a piece of pipe and then you got a 45, and then you got the conduit run that I've been working on that goes over the top. Of course, there's 3 boxes on that. That'll be for lights, and they both have conduit 3/4 coming out of the top that'll shoot over to put in outlets for the lights in bay 1. And if we go to the back side, I don't know if we can see it from here. I think you can just barely see one of the holes there. We drilled a hole through the column, and we got a 3/4 adapter there, so we can put a piece of PVC that'll come out and come across for the bay 2 lights. So we're going to run lights in bay 1 and bay 2 all through this same conduit, as well as 3 garage door openers and the 100 amp sub panel, which is the RV box. So a lot of wiring that's going to come through here. And of course, here it wasn't that simple to connect, so I had to heat and bend this pipe a little bit to get it on the outside of that lip where the rafter mounts up to the column. And then I had a 45 I put in there that didn't give me quite enough angle. Probably, well, I needed less than a 90. So I took another piece of pipe in between and I heated that up, and that's bent to, I don't know, 35 or 40 degrees. And then connected it to that 90. So the good news is that the only sharp turn is that 90. Everything else is more gradual, so hopefully that'll make for an easier pull. So all the pipe on this side here is 2-inch, and then the pipe going back, which will contain, you know, a lot of the wires. All the main wires going to the panel will come through this side. And so that's all 2.5 inch. So 2.5, then reduced to 2-inch, and a 3/4 and a 1-inch going out for light switches and garage doors. So it's a long conduit run. It's over 100 feet. We've also put in a 6-inch box down at that other column. Don't know what I'm going to do with it yet. I may run light switches out of that for bay 3 lights. I haven't really decided yet. Or I may run the bay 3 lights up the column on the far end there. Not all the way to the end, but the one by the panel. So we'll see how it works out. We'll get to those other lights when we get to them. Right now, I think putting 6 lights in to cover bay 1 and 2. I mean, right now I've got those temporary lights hanging down there that I did as a test. And when you turn one of them on, it basically lights up this entire place as far as being able to see. But if you're doing some work, you want brighter lights. And, you know, to be honest, you may just use a workshop light for specific work. You know, if you're under the hood or something, hanging a light under the hood is about the norm. So just depends on what I'm doing. But overall, it's coming together pretty good. We got this conduit done. So the next step will be starting to pull our wire runs, get our mule tape through. That's going to be a challenge. So that's where we're at. Stick with us. Let's see how it goes. Should be good enough to get it.
I think that's good.
This one's the heaviest one.
Okay. Another one.
Left.
I got it. I got it. I got it. Okay. Is that gonna feel that? It's a lot of prep work you have to do, huh? Just like a good electrician.
I don't know about that, but it'll get done. Okay, you ready?
Okay.
Okay, pull. Okay, that's it there. Ready?
Hey.
Go. Okay. Hang on, I gotta adjust my rope. It's gonna take a minute here. All right, so we've got our wires pulled into our box. We got 4 wires. Black and red are our 2 hots. White is our neutral, green is our ground. So to wire this RV panel up, it's really not that difficult. Our ground, we've got a lug here that screws, and all the green wires from the different plugs are attached to that. So that'll screw in right there. We'll probably do that last. Our neutral, all the white wires are screwed into this neutral block. And so our neutral wire will screw into the top by that lug. And then you see we've got 4 lugs on this breaker panel here. And basically the 2 center lugs are the same, and the 2 outside lugs are the same, meaning if you take a meter and you turn it to ohms and you touch both sides here, you'll have continuity. If you touch between this one and the outside one, if you touch between this one and the outside one, you will not have continuity. Those are your 2 legs. So I'm going to do hot 1 to the outside, or line 1, and line 2 to the inside. So basically black, red. So that's all the wires where they go. We'll strip the ends, put them into the lugs, torque them down, and that will get us all wired up. This is the front of our panel. This comes all put together, but I took it apart because I didn't want this hanging there in the way when we're pulling these wires. So it's really simple to put together and take apart. So here we've got our 30 amp breaker. Pop it in at the bottom, push it in at the top, and that's all there is to it. And then our 20 amp breaker, same way, set it in at the bottom, push it in at the top, and all of our breakers are in. All the black wires, which are your hots, screw into the breakers. Your greens are your grounds, and your whites are your neutrals. It does not matter what order these go in, because they're all going to the same neutral block. So I'm just going to basically put these back into the neutral block and tighten them back down. Our ground wires, now they've all got terminal ends on them, so kind of makes it easy. Goes through the lug. This might be a little bit challenging with that wire already in there. We'll see. Okay, that can hang. And I'll tell you, it is more challenging when your eyes are bad, can't see, you got bad lighting. Makes it even more challenging, so that's why I'm disconnecting the wire to get it out of my way so I can try to get this screw started. Had to move it around until I felt it slip into the hole and then get it started. There we go. There we go. Wire was pushed in there just a little too far and pushing up against my nut, and I couldn't get the nut driver on it good enough, so I wasn't tightening it up at all. There we go. Help if I put it on regular instead of Phillips. Okay, so everything's wired up here. So once again, everything's pretty much color coded, and that does make it easier. All of our neutrals are of course white, grounds are green, and we've got red and black for our two hots. Black line 1, red line 2. And that's how we've been wiring our entire electrical system, so everything is color coordinated. And when it's not, we put electrical tape on to identify anything that's not matching right. So everything is color coded. Before we start messing around inside the box, we got to shut off the power. And the cool thing about how we did our power, I got this service disconnect, and we know all of our wiring. We know that way goes to the outside panel and this way goes to the inside panel. So 200 amp service disconnect, that shuts off the power. But you know what? We got a fail safe that I can be extra safe. And now that panel's off too. So cut the power off here, cut the power off there, it's double disconnected. Can't get any better than that. Now typically once you disconnect all your power, you would take your meter still and check your box and make sure that the power's out. That's another benefit of this nice little surge protector that we put on the side. If you haven't seen that video, go back and watch the Siemens surge protection device SPD 140 and how we did that and everything. But this has lights on the side, so when the power is out, the lights are out, and that pretty much confirms that you've shut off all your power. So it's really just another safety deal that's built in. We've got a 100 amp breaker here that's what we've already put a label on, RV panel. And so we're setting that up as a 100 amp sub panel. We used a number 2 ground and number 1 hots and neutral. And so that's plenty good, but there's other reasons why we upsized that. We didn't just upsize it because it's 100 feet. In all honesty, 100 feet or less, you shouldn't have enough voltage drop in most cases that you'd have to upsize. But we went ahead and upsized because we're putting so many different wires into these conduits, you've got to derate. And so we're derating at like 80%, which basically says, you know, we've got to increase wire sizes on everything. So that's why we've got a circuit that isn't even a continuous circuit on our garage door openers. They use 11 amps, but we're wiring those using number 10 wire. It's upsized for derating. So crazy electrician stuff. Not sure I even understand it. Whole bunch of math, which I hate math. But anyway, you gotta do it. So that's where we're at. We got to run these wires through our conduit down into the box, and then we'll start hooking them up to our different spots where they're supposed to hook up to, and we'll get this RV panel wrapped up.
Okay.
Got a little more to go. You got it.
That's it?
Yeah. So on this end, again, pretty simple. We've color coded everything. White, neutral. This is our line in. This is our neutral bus. Now this bus in this box has a bonding bar here. So both sides of this are neutral. We've got a extra neutral block that's here. Now we use the big one on this side because our main wire was, what size wire was that? I think it was 1/0 or 2/0, I can't remember. Anyway, the big wire that's feeding it, we use the big lug. So we got this extra lug on this side, which if this was a bonded neutral and ground, then you would have connected your ground here. We left it, and we're going to put this neutral to our sub panel on this bar just because it's a big lug, so it's a convenient place to do it. And an easy way to connect that with a lug that can support the 100 amp sub panel. This is our breaker, so that's where our 2 hots are going to go. Now I like to keep everything coordinated, so we've got line 1, line 2. So basically this bus bar coming down on this side is line 1, and the bus bar coming down on this side is line 2. And so if we look at how this breaker goes, you see the top breaker comes over to this side, so the top is line 1, and the bottom breaker comes over to this side, and that's line 2. And if you look here where we did our surge protection device, same thing. We got black to line 1, and it was 2 blacks for hots, but they did have a label on them, and we just put red tape on line 2, so it is coordinated. So we're gonna connect our 2 hots, our line 1 and 2. That's the red and the black wire will be connected into this breaker. And you can see it's got some big holes on this side. The lugs on it, whatever they call them, are big enough that they can handle this size wire. If not, then we'd have to get fancy and do some other creative stuff, reducing the size. And so I'm just putting this together before I put it in the slot. Sometimes it makes it easier. Whether it will this time or not, I guess we'll find out. Alright, so we got our breaker back in. The next thing I got to hook up is the ground. And again, the challenge with the ground is this number 2 wire is too big to put into these small grounding blocks. So they sell these little blocks that attach on and drop to the outside, and then it gives you a big enough lug to put this into. So I've already put one on this side that I used for the line in. That's how I grounded these, and of course they're bonded to the case, so you don't have to hook the grounding blocks together. And so then on this side I've got another one, and that's where I'm going to put this one. Okay, so that connects our ground. So we connected our neutral here, our ground here, and our two hots to the breakers. And that wires in that 100 amp panel. So to turn our power on is just as easy as when we turned it off. We turn our main disconnect back on. It's now hot. And then we turn our transfer switch back to utility. And we should have power inside now. So before we can test anything over on the other side in our sub panel, first thing we got to do is turn the breaker on. So this is our RV panel breaker. And of course you can touch it here. This is the part that's always accessible and always clear, but you obviously don't want to touch any of the open areas on either side, which is why you would typically put your panel on and cover all this up, and this is the only part that is visible. So we're flipping that breaker to on. It's a good sign that when I flipped it on, it didn't pop back to off, which means we don't have any shorts or ground faults. We should be at least good there. Alright, so here's our finished panel. It's a good sign that when I put my hand on it, I don't get electrocuted, but I knew I wouldn't. So again, this is just like you would find in an RV park or anything. It's called an RV panel, and it's got a 50 amp, a 30 amp, and a 20 amp. There's breakers in it for each. So first thing I'm going to do is flip on my 20 amp. Now that's a GCFI ground or GFCI ground fault circuit interrupter. And I noticed it like blinked red. There it goes. So I just reset it. We got a green light, and that's telling us it's good. I popped it. It popped like it's supposed to. I thought the red light would be on when it's off, but I guess not. And there it's green. This panel's good and ready to go. Happy with how it came out, and we're on to the next project. If you haven't done so already, don't forget to like and subscribe. And click that notification bell so you get notified when we put out our next video and you see what we're going to do next, because you never know. We're always doing something. You never know what's going to break next, what's going to go wrong, what's going to go right, what's going to happen. We don't even know. We just kind of roll with it. As always, appreciate you watching. Appreciate you sticking with us through another video and following along and joining us on this adventure. Take care. God bless. We'll see you on the next one.